And it would be an afternoon, you come and talk. So instead of getting a Western teacher, which they have now, they had Lama Yeshe there was the teacher, because it was very early days, a long time ago. And so you would have like a 1 or 2 hour class, you'd come and get a little overview of Buddhism. So I heard this story about Lama Yeshe that so this group of Italians came, I think 6 Italian tourists came through, and you have an idea on your trip, you really want to go to the shopping area and you want to go to a cafe and have the chocolate cake and then do some shopping. But they said, well, we heard about this Buddhist center, we'll check it out. And they showed up, and the teachings were in the library, and the 6 of them came. And of course, Lama knew their minds, and they weren't all that interested in Buddhism. They, it was like, we'll kind of do this, and then we'll say we did something worthwhile today, and then we'll go shopping. So they came in, and it's talking, and then Lama talked to them, and he said, oh, where are you from? Italy. Oh, where in Italy? Florence. So he had done some traveling. He said, I've been to Florence. Anyway, proceeded to have a 45-minute conversation with them about Florence and the lovely little cafe on the Via da where the ice cream, and they had the this, and they were completely enchanted with him. They were like, oh, we live near there. That's our cafe. We yes, the river, yes, they were totally mesmerized with Lama. Like 45 minutes, he just caught them. And then he said, I'm sorry, I'm wasting all your time with this. Oh, and he said, oh, you came here about the Buddhist course. You came here about and he said, oh, you don't want to hear about that. And then they were like, we do. We really do want to hear it. They were totally enthralled with him, like so skillful, right? How skillful. Like when we think, so we are a little bit about autonomy. Like, I'm going out today, and I've got my list and my agenda, because I got my things to do, and I'm going to do my errands, and then I'm going to have a little coffee with my friend, but I have my stuff, and I don't really want to be bothered when I'm doing my stuff, okay? So this is really, if we want to make the world go around with more harmony, it has to start here. So can I adjust my thinking a little bit? Can I adjust my thinking? How do I do that? And what's really interesting, another thing that Lama did was that he took the students one time, there was a bunch of monks and nuns, and he says, we're going to this place where I'll teach, and I want to bring gifts. I want to get some gifts for the people there or whatever. And so they went into this little gift shop. I forget where it was. It might have been Italy or something. They went into this little gift shop to get gifts. And the students at the time were not into this stop. Like, oh, we just want to, Lama, we want to go. We were going to the restaurant, and we don't want to. Anyway, so we went into the gift shop. It was very small. And the owner was a little bit tight, that all these people came in, and gift shops and those, they don't have many anymore, but the little gift shops, all the trinkets, we say. I call them little dust collectors, right? So they went in, and the owner was a little bit like watching people. Well, all these people came in the little shop, and he wasn't kind of happy. And so everybody went into the gift shop looking right away at the gifts, ignoring the owner. We need to let's just quickly get stuff. Come on, Lama went right to the owner. Again, sentient being. This is about people. He went immediately to the owner and started up a dialogue with the owner. This shop, how long has the shop been here? Is it your shop? How long have you worked here? What is it? Where do you get the things from? Anyway, they became like this. Anyway, something Lama said, obviously the owner just glommed onto Lama, and they were talking for maybe 15, 20 minutes while everybody was looking at the things. And so it ends up that he started giving them stuff from the shop to give. Again, so connection, it's all about creating healthy connections with people. Our empathy grows from there, and it empowers you, creating healthy connections with people. How can I do that rather than the autonomy? And did you have any interesting conversations at the tea break? Any interesting insights? Anything people care to share?
I just learned a little bit more about Buddhism and
All right, you never know, wonderful. Yeah, you never know, right? So in this, I just wanted to talk about compassion and empathy as we know, there's a global need now more than ever, more than ever. And so what happens? Obviously, we know we have many forces in the world today that are really challenging us right now. So we've got a world that appears to be becoming smaller. It's obviously the same planet, okay? But as a result of our technology, we have finite natural resources. We're aware of that. We've got a tremendous amount of environmental problems. The overpopulation of the planet, proximity of people, okay, cultures, religions. We've got this massive immigration issue, refugees now. So it's suddenly, I don't know if this is the right word, coloring our world in different ways. I think in kind of very interesting ways, actually, because you're meeting people from other cultures that, you know, come into the things. So I just, yeah, I'm going to try to not get too political here because I'm very political sometimes. So the global economy as well, okay? So we're, I think, urgently being called upon to foster a spirit of coexistence, to foster a spirit of cooperation. Okay, when I find that there's a part in me that doesn't want to do that, and it comes up through the day where suddenly I'm like, you know, I just need to do my practice now. Leave me alone. You know, it's like, you know, I kind of watch that mind, and because I have compassion for myself, I go, okay, yeah, it's just because I didn't get enough sleep last night, or don't want to stay up too late, or gentle approach with myself, you know, but again, fostering the spirit of coexistence and cooperation. Please ask yourself, how can I do that in my everyday life? When is it not happening? And when it's not happening, then I must check what is happening in my mind. What is happening in my mind? And we work with that, okay? Because we're all in this together. Okay. So there's a lot of people on the planet right now that I find my kind of current heroes or heroines, whatever you want to label them, talking about a reality of the oneness of humankind. I'm going to call it shared humanity, common humanity. These words are circling around. Archbishop Desmond Tutu talks about it a lot. His Holiness the Dalai Lama talks about it a lot, like that. And this is what compassion is all about, that we're all in this together. We're not that unlike. So I want to read from His Holiness the Karmapa. He has a new book out. The book is called Interconnected. What a great topic, right? Interconnected. Embracing life in our global society. Embracing life in our global society. He says, it is possible and realistic for every person to experience real freedom. The reason we have not managed to do so is we lack an understanding of what real freedom is and how it can be achieved. We need the wisdom to distinguish the egocentric pursuit of self-interest from the pursuit of authentic freedom. Okay, so and he goes on, when I hear what people say about freedom sometimes, it sounds to me like longing to live out the fantasy of being independent and absolutely autonomous individuals, of being free of consequences and responsibility. That is to say, exempt from the principle of interdependence. There's no such thing. We cannot exist outside causality or outside the connections of interdependence. And so freedom cannot be a manner of escaping from those connections. So just to go on about that for a little bit, and I'm going to read more of his quote, I'd love to have you have a lunchtime conversation, if you like, on freedom, what freedom means to you, what meaning in your life means, because some of us aren't clear about it. And in my culture in the United States, as you know pretty well, the independence and autonomy is pervasive, especially among the white privileged, okay? The independence and autonomy, like we're living in a vacuum, and and things don't go around based on anybody else. It's amazing. So I think it's really important to, and I look at this in my mind every day of when I'm feeling like I don't need to coexist, and when I realize it's the only way I can exist is through coexistence. And it's tricky because we bump up against people that have different views than us and are, you know, living in slightly different experiences of it. So in the country that I live in, the United States, right, I've lived in other countries, but right now I'm there with because of my elderly dad. The the country for white people was founded on independence. That's why white people came there, okay? So there is sometimes I find genetically kind of, or some kind of feeling where what the country got founded upon permeates. So Americans, I find pervasively when I teach around the world, they're fiercely independent people, more than some other cultures. If you're in Europe and you've got little countries that have to coexist, people have a different mindset about it. And when I teach, it's very different the questions that the French ask versus the questions that Turkish people ask versus the question that Americans ask. I shouldn't even say Americans, people from the United States. And I've been in courses where, I think we were talking maybe last night, when I had a course at Tushita in Dharamsala, you'll get courses with 80 to 100 people, and they're from all over the world. So if one time the director came to me and said, well, your course, there's a third of the people, almost a quarter, are Israeli and people from the States. So when I get Israelis and Americans, people from the States, too many, these are overly confident cultures. Overly confident cultures. So they will dominate. And they dominate the question and answer, so nobody else speaks. Everybody's like, they get intimidated. So you have to kind of balance. And they were saying, should we have a quota? Which is all, hard, but like that. So the coexistence, so your freedom, think about your freedom. So I'm not going to mention any names or point to anybody, but I happened to catch somebody at the break on their technology, okay? And I'm joking, because we're all, most of us are addicted to our technology, okay? So technology has some fantastic uses. I've got a computer right here. Right? I have prayers on my cell phone. So when I travel, I just open up my little prayer book there, and it's easier because my prayer book's really big, so I just now put it on the phone. So technology has some great things of getting me around the world, getting me directions when I'm going somewhere very easily, and I'm very grateful for that. And yet, I notice the addiction, where I'm like, shut it down. Like I have tech holidays. Don't even turn it on. Give your mind a rest, because some other space opens up for me when I give it a rest. Can you go out into nature for a change? It's very different than living in the box. See what happens, because the box keeps you in a certain level of you're a little bit nummified, I find. That's how it works for me, but you please check. The other thing I notice is the internet has this unique ability to take your attention into a very concentrated space, right? Only to scatter it throughout the globe. Like you go into this thing, and now let's say you're on Facebook. I got my son. So here I am, paging through these things, but it's this story about this thing, and then you go over on that, and then it's another thing, and you go, oh my God, and then I have to send this to my friend. So just be cautious if it's affecting your mind and keeping you from my interdependence with everyone else. And it's tricky because we are addicted. So it's another thing we're addicted to. People talk about substances, but technology. And so yesterday I was in Liverpool teaching, lovely, lovely people there, and lovely hosts that become good friends, and their son that I've met when he was maybe 9. He's now 15. He's a lovely guy. He's turning into a gem. And he and I were talking about why younger people now, I don't know if you have this experience, but many of them suffer from anxiety and depression. Seems like more than my generation, I'm not sure. We had stuff too. Maybe we smoked a lot of marijuana. I don't know, maybe that alleviated it, but many kids I know, because I interact with a lot of 20-year-olds, I have a lot of friends in their 20s, and they're on anti-anxiety drugs. They've been on them for years in their 20s. Like it's kind of like some of the drugs help, but is that how you want to be your whole life on these? Because the drugs have side effects, especially long term. So what's going on with, and I asked him, and I said, what do you think it is? Because you're in the culture, you're in that age. What do you think? And he right away he said social media. He said social media. And we were out in the street playing in this season till, a parent called you in for supper or something. We were outside, we were interacting in person, looking into somebody's eyes, and then you were interacting, figuring out how how to do it. If you're on a team playing something, a sport, how we had to get along to do it. And when fights broke out and how we'd resolve it. And I don't know, there was something. So it's something just to think about, is your technology keeping you from your practice? You can always adjust. Then what about your freedom? And I wanted to just relay a dream from Annie Tenzin Palmo, Jitsunma Tenzin Palmo. She is a English nun from your culture. Some of you are aware of her. She's amazing. She's now been recognized by the Tibetans, which is very unusual. She's been recognized as a high being, and I think Lama Zopa Rinpoche said she's realized bodhicitta, this high level of wanting to get enlightened to benefit others, developing the good heart. And she's very special. She's an old friend. So she came to our center in California years ago to teach. And she relayed a dream she had before a retreat. Did I tell this before? She was in a big factory. She was in a big factory. She was in a big prison. She was in a huge prison, like a big factory. And everyone had jobs, and her job was to escape from the prison, but first to go to every cell and get as many people to escape with her as possible. So she went around exhaustingly, I think over the course of 2 or 3 days, to every cell. Okay, so some cells, she went to the door, the bars, and the person was being tortured. So not an option to escape. There's like some people, South Sudan, what happened in Syria, they're not free at all to like even consider the life. They're just trying to get food to eat, so somebody being tortured, so she couldn't even broach it with them to escape. Then she goes to another cell. Hello, I'm escaping, and I want to know if you want to escape from the prison. So somebody comes to the cell. This is us, right? This is me. I know I'm in prison, and I really, really want to escape. I really want out. But I'm a little bit too busy today. Right? Isn't that us? Like, I really want to practice, but I gotta do this. Gotta do this other thing, okay? Then she went to some cells, and she said, we're in prison, and I'm escaping, and I want to know if you want to go with me. And the people said, what prison? Right? Beautiful penthouse apartment, totally, huh? Okay, so what's your prison like? It's interesting. And do you think you're in prison? Are you not in prison? How free are you? How free is your mind? So sometimes when your life feels relatively free and unencumbered, the mind feels free and unencumbered. And last night, we were talking about a little bit about stuff. We'll have our stuff conversation, I'm sure, before I leave. But in the States, I'm generalizing right now, but I think people have too much stuff. Too much stuff. And I hear many friends complain about their stuff. I know friends that pay a lot of money every month to store their stuff that they haven't looked at in 15 years. This is the United States of America. So big houses, properties, garages, basements, attics with stuff. And people are depressed about their stuff. Oh, we got the stuff. Like, we gotta, So then somebody came out, some of you have seen this book about The Joy of Decluttering. I forget the name of it. Anyway, it's a fun book. I read the book and I totally rearranged my sock and underwear drawer. And I was so empowered and happy as a result. And my sister came to visit from England, and she said, oh, I've heard about this book, blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, and I opened the drawer and she went, whoa, what has happened here, right? It's a book about decluttering. Do you find joy? You keep. It's not about getting rid of. The first thing is keep what gives you joy. I found it very interesting. But what happens is you have your stuff. What's that?
I'm putting it in my notes.
Great, put it.
When I keep going on again, I'm putting things in.
I love it. I forget the name. Is the art?
What's it called?
The art.
Is it the KonMari?
The KonMari method. That's it. Thank you. The KonMari method. I think it's her name, and we'll find it. We can find it at lunch. I'm sure you can search, and because I have a thing also. Thank you. In my notes on my phone. This is another good use of tech. Every time somebody recommends a book, I'd say, oh yeah, I want to read that. And then I go to the library and I'm like, what was the book they told me to read? So now it's all in a list on so I just go in the library and I go, okay, which ones do I want to get out? Like, so another really interesting thing for me, maybe they have this in England, but the sad thing that's going on, I know in London, my sister's been on a big campaign about this. So they're closing libraries. This is like Fahrenheit 451, if you've read that science fiction book, right? Closing libraries. These are well-used libraries. They're making them these little automated factories, but it really crushes me because it just really tips into some other kind of thing, that libraries are not important.
When I were a kid, we used to have a library bus that used to come around, used to come around the streets. And
Yes.
Like a long lorry almost.
Yep.
And you get like Mobile Library.
That's right.
Brilliant, you got rid of those as well.
It's fantastic. And I know in the States we do have some library mobiles, so they do move in areas that don't have libraries, and we haven't started doing that in our country yet, and the libraries are great. And where I used to live in Vermont, the libraries were like shrines, some of them amazing. And every little village has a library. So there's always some library you can walk to, where if you live in Vermont in your village, and they're amazing. So now I found on my phone, because my phone's a lot smarter than I am, right? There's an app in the States called Overdrive. Maybe it's in other countries. I belong to my local library. As long as you belong to a library and you have a number, I connect to this app and I can borrow library books on my phone wherever I am in the world. I can borrow up to 10 books at a time. I get them for 3 weeks. I can order books and it tells me exactly what order I'm in to read the book. So I like to read on the phone because I can highlight passages that I pull into different classes, where with my other book you end up typing. So it's been like my favorite thing that's happened is now, because instead of traveling with a lot of books, which are heavy, it's in my phone. So, and sometimes you're on a plane and you finish your book and then you're like, so now I'm just go to the next book, And so so the freedom, she goes to the cells, she gets 2 people to go with her. 2 people agree, we're going to escape, right? So they're going to escape. It's time to escape. They go to the gate, the main gate. There's guards. They walk right out of the prison. Who stops you from getting out of your prison? Just you, right? They walk right out. Now, for some reason, she felt she had to run alongside the prison to get away, instead of away from it. It's a massive factory. It's blocks long. She's running, and the 2 people are running behind her. She's running and running and running, and she's looking at the windows, and she sees people living and sleeping and eating and going to the bathroom and working and making love and just life. So she's running and running, and she's more and more exhausted. And she is completely exhausted and realizes the prison is never ending. It will never end. It doesn't end. It doesn't end. And she's panicking, and she's thinking, there's no way to get away from it. No way to get away from it. I can't escape. I'll have to go back. I have to go back. And so she forgot about the 2 people behind her. And when she turned about going back, how far was it to go back? She caught them out of the corner of her eye, the 2 people. And then she remembered, like, I've got 2 people with me that, we're escaping together. And so if I go back, they're going to go back. So then suddenly bodhicitta arises, the thought of them, right? As soon as she has the thought of them, that she couldn't go back because of them, not because of her, because of them, the prison disappeared, right? So if you realize bodhicitta, that's the end of your prison. And you always have something to do, because your entire purpose that brings you bliss is about helping others every moment. And there's always somebody to help. So you're always happy to do. So I think it's interesting to explore what freedom is to you. And if it becomes this kind of autonomous thing, and I know some of my friends right now who are looking for homes and retreat property, practitioners, and I'm a little bit kind of semi-homeless because I live with my father. It's his house, and he may be transitioning to a senior place, and we have to sell the house, and then I'm suddenly like, and he's going to need the money to move into the place. And so we don't have a lot of support for nuns, Western nuns in our culture. So it's kind of like, we're supposed to be wandering mendicants, but in this day and age, it's not really possible and practical or safe, so it's a kind of, and Rinpoche's talked to me about a home base, and it's challenging when you're on a limited income like that. So some of my friends talk about practitioners like, oh, when I get that space, when I get my space, that then everything's going to be okay. when I have my bookshelves and when I have my carpet down and my thing, like then that's going to be it, you know. But with aging, people aging, will they be able to take care of themselves in the space? Who is there? You know, you forget, and then suddenly you have a health issue later, and you can't take care of yourself, and then you have to move from your space, or the space isn't conducive for a wheelchair, or there's no elevator, and there's no this, and you can't get into the car, and you can't drive anymore. So it's very challenging to think as if you're doing it all by yourself, and my culture is very geared on doing it by themselves. Like, we can do it, I can do it by myself. We don't need, but the real truth is we're always dependent on others, always dependent on the kindness of others. So, you know, drinking water and food and the fact that this computer is because of the kindness of others. You know, you can say, no, Apple wanted to make money. Absolutely, you know, but they keep trying to create something that is better and more sophisticated. And then the kindness for me of Milarepa Center bought me this computer when I left. That was a gift from, you know, it's like, what a kind, because I used and broke my computer working for them. And you know, so it's like, so this is how it all goes around. You offer and you give, and for me it's always come back 100-fold at centers and things like that. So can we get that into our mind? I think you have a better understanding of that in England. You know, smaller country, you're near Europe, you understand. You had, I mean, the whole Brexit thing, suddenly you're like, what happened? What are we really not going to participate in this? You know, we've got quite an interesting situation in the United States right now, right? Based on our leader and some of the things that are going on. So this interdependent nature, it's the key, it's the crux of Buddhism because it relates to emptiness as well. Let me just go on a little bit more with His Holiness the Karmapa. Only freedom developed on the basis of a realistic view of who we are and how we relate to others can be authentic and extended universally to all. If we acknowledge our interdependence and take into account the vast networks of interconnections in which our lives and actions are embedded, we will find that our own freedom is inseparable from the freedom of all other people. When we truly appreciate this fact, we experience interdependent freedom, a freedom that does not detract from others' freedom. This is the freedom we can all enjoy without any conflict. So I think I really love to remind my mind about that when I'm branching out and suddenly I'm, you know, get out of my way, this is what I need to do, and then I have to remember, wait a minute, we're all doing this together. So when you notice tightness, suddenly something, can you please experience a little bit, ask yourself, where is it coming from? What am I thinking about? Myself or others? Am I in the me, myself, and I syndrome? Or is it, I'm part of this whole circle that's going around, and I need to participate in the circle. That means looking out for others, and yet also kindness to myself. That the kindness to myself has to be in there as well. So don't negate yourself because I'm, you know. So here's another thing about Bodhisattva warriors. Bodhisattva warriors. I think I've talked about that in here before. Bodhisattva warriors are, you're not going to war with anyone, you go to war with your delusions. So anything that keeps me thinking I'm separate from others, thinking that I don't need to help others, that I'm better than others, or I'm inferior to others. Bodhisattva warriors. So, and they're armored. Warriors wear armor, patience, generosity, okay, ethical conduct, a joyous effort, right? Joyous effort is not just effort, it's effort directed at virtue, at virtuous things. Concentration is part of my, meditative stabilization. So my mind, through my meditation practice, because a lot of my practice is internal and external. Internal and external. The internal informs the external. So I've got to sit on the cushion once a day. I've got to do some practice, sometimes more if I have more time. But I'm going to do something every day to check how it's going. How's my mind? Yesterday I was upset about something. So let me go back today to check, what was that experience for me? Oh, you know what? I wanted to get out of there. I needed to do that. Had nothing to do with anyone. No wonder why I was a bit tweaked. I wasn't considering somebody else's experience. So this is how you investigate and analyze, because then I can start to change my mind. And you do it again and again on the cushion, so then suddenly, externally, I'm back in front of the difficult person, but I've had enough experience and exercise rehearsal here, so the positive thing finally gets automatically accessed. That's why we call it practice. And it takes effort. It takes effort. So the 80th time you practice it on the cushion, suddenly now I'm in front of the person the 80th time and something positive gets accessed. So don't beat yourself up if the next time you're in front of them, you fall again and you say something snippy to them. Again, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's our spiritual practice. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I messed up. I'm a human being. Make mistakes. That's okay. Trying, but I'm always another step forward. Another step forward. That's what we try to do. So you have to, for me, the internal and external. So, you know, we had some issues going on in the States, the election and country. I don't know, it hasn't been this divided that I ever remember really, in a way. Yeah, a little bit, but in the 80s, a little bit. But it's been quite sad in the country. And unfortunately, since the election, the hate crimes have escalated. Hate crimes against, you know, just really skyrocketed what's going on for people of color, gays, you know, lesbians. It's been very, very sad. And I've gone to protests. You know, maybe I'm not supposed to as a nun. I don't know. We're not supposed to be overly political, but I like to go and I have all these Congress people that I phone weekly and say, you know, have my little things I say. So that's my choice to do it. But what's my attitude doing it? And my attitude isn't anger and hostility and disconnection. My attitude is love and connection, right? I respect that they got elected to office, because that's what I used to work in, was getting people elected. And right? So I know the process is horrible. It's a grueling process. They may have done it because they have a big ego, but not all of them, right? And the other thing I do is, if you have somebody that has a very different political view from you, you would get angry with them and they're stupid and they're a jerk. And so what I do is occasionally these people that are elected that have a very different political view than me, because I live in a very right-wing area right now, is they have sometimes supported something I agree with. So I call them and register with an aide to thank them for that vote. So I don't just complain. There's some things and I go, that was great, thank you so much, please thank Congressman so-and-so, that, great. You know, it doesn't happen a lot with these people, but it does happen, right? So I think that's important, to give positive feedback. I happen to come from a nation of whiners, for the most part, complainers, whingers, you might say. So I think it's important, if you are going to speak up to an airline or write a letter to say, you know, you canceled the flight, then you lied that the pilot was sick, then you weren't going to, because what they do in the States now is, if the airline cancels from their side, you have rights. You should know this if you ever travel in the States. They love to cancel a non-stop flight and put you through a place, because those flights have more people on them and they don't want to send a flight that doesn't have a lot of people. It's a way, and you know, they don't make money on it. So they'd cancel this flight I had non-stop to the East Coast so I could sleep on the flight. No, they made me go through Chicago and stop, and my friend was really upset that was with me. And so what they do is, if they inconvenience you and it's overnight, they have a responsibility, if they cancel from their side, to put you up in a hotel overnight that they pay for. But they won't tell you that. So all these people lined up, oh, we'll book you on the next available flight. And that goes through Chicago. We'll book you on the next, no problem, we'll book you on the thing. There's a long queue, right? So I went up and I had to 4 times say to the attendant, but you will pay for a hotel for us, right? For tonight, if we don't want the flight, if we want the non-stop. She wouldn't make eye contact with me, ignored me. 4 times, 4th time I had to say, and she very quietly took me to the side so nobody else would hear, that they would pay for a hotel. Yeah, we'll you know, where do you want to go? What do you, it's like that. So you don't, so they do these things that are, you know, so if you write a letter to the airline saying this happened, but I also like to write letters saying how great it was. Or this flight attendant was amazing because this person was harassing them. I think it's important to do that, to support. So just thinking about your interconnection, we're all bumping up against people, especially every time you're in a flight, when you're on a train. You're in a small area with people, and you see people, you're walking down the street. Leeds is a city. Somebody bumps into you. What's the point of getting angry with them? Well, I bumped into people. So this is part of the whole interconnection of how we need to figure it out. We need to figure it out together. So please think about that in your own life. The other thing I love about how can I feel good about myself to counter low self-esteem, to start practicing compassion towards myself and empathy towards myself, beginning, so I can be empowered. Buddhism teaches that we are fundamentally good. We are fundamentally good. I was talking with the people in Liverpool yesterday. We went to one of the cathedrals. They're beautiful. We went to the cathedrals and they were talking about how they were raised in some kind of, a lot of us Judeo-Christian cultures. And the story is a little bit heavy, what happened in the beginning. And then it's your fault. Something went wrong, right? So here's the thing. This is from, everybody's talking about this right now. I'll just put this down for a moment. There's Archbishop Desmond Tutu, okay? We are flawed. The human experience is make mistakes as a human. It's natural. We're not, Buddha nature, no mistakes. Human nature, mistakes. But I'm not laying a trip on myself. I accept that I make mistakes, okay? I try to learn from the mistakes so I don't repeat it. Sometimes I've repeated them, okay? Because we all have our different level of thickness, where I'm just not conscious enough at that point, not ready to hear, to glean the lesson. So I said it's a process. So I make the mistake a third time. And fortunately, we have this wonderful word in our languages, renunciation. Renunciation. It's the first principle of the path. Renunciation, bodhicitta, emptiness. They're called the three principles or the three principal aspects of the path. Renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness. It contains the whole path. So what happens is, when you make a mistake enough, fortunately for some of us, something arises in the heart and the mind, and you say, enough. I can't do this again this way. Okay? And that's when you start to have compassion for yourself. You're perpetuating a habit that is destructive, negative, causing harm to you or others. It's a mistake. But a lot of us don't wake up enough, so we just keep, people with destructive behavior. I had a lot of it in my 20s before I met the Dharma. I drank too much. I did I had some really not nice social habits, okay? And I just didn't know there was anything else. And then you meet the Dharma, you find some kind of path, a little light goes off, and I'll think, this isn't really helpful. And I'm not happy. I'm not happy. It always starts with, I'm not happy. That's fine, okay? That's the beginning of renunciation. Having some compassion for yourself. And some of you have reached a point where you had a negative pattern over and over and over happening. And you get to a point, and sometimes you've had friends say to you, I can't be around you when you drink that much, or I can't, That can be healthy if you're able to listen to them, but sometimes people get angry back at them. But I had a pattern in intimate relationships I had. And it just kept ending up in this place, and both people were very unhappy. And something happened kind of dramatic in this one relationship. And I remember actually being on my knees, like crumbling, crying about, and fortunately some little insight, and I just said, I can't do this anymore like this. And I never did again. But I just had this, I can't do this like this anymore. And then something in my mind, you're able to access a little bit of a change, positive change, to say. So I needed to learn how to do it differently. I didn't really know, but I was like, you know what, I'm just going to take a break from relationships and just assess, because I actually need to get healthy myself, because I'm not healthy, and what I do is keep attracting ill health. So then we just do this unhealthy dance. So it was a little bit of that wisdom. We all have our own wisdom and compassion. We're slowly layering on top. More wisdom, more compassion. You grow, you learn, develop. And that I would call renunciation, when you begin to have compassion for yourself. And I said, enough, I can't do this anymore, I'm not doing it like this. That's what I'm giving up. We have an idea of renunciation as giving all your stuff away. No, it's an attitude. I'm giving up a certain pattern that doesn't benefit me or others at all. I'm giving that up, giving up ill health, like that. So, so we talk about these flaws. Archbishop Desmond Tutu talks about it, and this shared humanity, common humanity. There's another man I read. I do a lot of diversity work in the States. Not a lot. I do some diversity work in the States, and it's been brilliant things. So I was reading, there's a man in the States, Brian Stevenson. He's a lawyer, and he wrote a book called Just Mercy. He represents people, poor people, many of whom in the States are on death row before they're executed. Some of them he's gotten sentences changed for life in prison, not death row, changed from death row. He's also, some of these people are in prison without what we call parole. They'll never get a chance of getting out. So also the reason a lot of them are in there is they're innocent, they were poor, so they didn't have proper representation. So he, out of the goodness of his heart, started representing these people many years ago, and he actually now has represented in front of the Supreme Court. So it's unconstitutional in the United States for a child, so this is somebody under the age of 18, to be sentenced to life in prison without parole. There were kids sentenced, 14 years old, life in prison, no opportunity of parole. That's now unconstitutional in the States because of him. So what happens is he talks about the book of all, when he started this, and he started this Equal Justice Initiative, it's called. Equal Justice Initiative, it operates in Montgomery, Alabama. So, and now there's branches around the country, and you can volunteer and help, and so now he's got a staff, and there's a lot of lawyers and a lot of people helping, and a lot of money, more money. In the beginning, there was nothing. So they're operating with stacks of cases, and there's like 3 of them, and finally, over the course, he had a conversation with a guy on death row. The guy was going to be executed in an hour or 2, and all the appeals ran out, and the guy was innocent, and he couldn't do anything. So after all this work he did, he was done, and he hung up the phone and broke down, sobbing. He was alone in his office late at night, sobbing and just broken. And he said, I can't do it anymore, I'm done. And he writes this in the book. He just said, I quit. I couldn't manage anymore, I couldn't handle it, right? So somehow, fortunately, in his despair, utter despair, we've all been in these situations, I'm done, in his utter despair, he had this insight that we're all broken. We're all broken, right? And how to heal ourselves, he said, is you have to go through the brokenness. So he couldn't give up, he couldn't deny it, he couldn't repress it, he wasn't going to act out, lash out at others through it. It was just acknowledging the shared humanity. We're all broken. So I'm not saying I'm bad, right? I'm much better now realizing that I'm broken, acknowledging that I'm broken, like the terrorists, I'm broken, like the refugees, I'm broken. And, this kind of trajectory, and I'm working on it. I can become a Buddha, it may not happen this life. I'm realistic, but I'm just going to keep a few steps forward. I'm going to sometimes fall flat on my face, so I think it's very powerful to acknowledge that. This is Pema Chodron. Same theme. And she talks about, I love this book. It was one of her newer books that came out, Living Beautifully with Uncertainty and Fear. I think it's called Living Beautifully with Uncertainty and Fear. This is our world now, uncertainty and fear. This is what it's like. You may go shopping and a bomb may go off. I didn't know it was going to look like this science fiction movie, when I was young. I didn't think we would get to Children of Man so quickly, right? Has anybody read that book, P.D. James, I think it is? It's where the bombs are just going off down at the cafe and you're like, oh, just another bomb, So she talks about in this book, the first chapter is called The Fundamental Ambiguity of Being Human. Fundamental ambiguity of being human. And this came, she said, from a war correspondent. Because in war, you see, people are killing each other in horrible ways, and you're like, but we're human beings, right? So her first quote on this chapter is from Suzuki Roshi, great Zen master. Suzuki Roshi. Life is like stepping into a boat that is about to sail out to sea and sink. Okay. So if I have the context of samsara, samsara is a Sanskrit word to cycle, to turn. Okay, what are we turning through? Birth, old age, sickness, and death. Birth, old age, sickness, and death. All of that is suffering. Okay. It's not to acknowledge the glory of the universe. There's that as well. Okay? Some beautiful things about life as well. But if I understand samsara's nature is broken, okay, we don't understand this. So a bomb goes off, and then we obsess about that and we get freaked out. You're running out of money. You're struggling with money. That's also samsara's nature. You get the flu. You get sick. Samsara's nature. Your partner wants to leave you. You know, I mean, it's a broken situation. I didn't sign up for that. I think it should be perfect. That's not realistic. Okay. But this is the way we go through space. So as soon as there's, on our level, a little inconvenience, and it can ruin your whole day. You're not touching reality. So Geshe Jompa Tekshog said once, the nature of water is it's moist. If you're in a swimming pool filled with water, you don't flail around and say, it's wet here. But that's what samsara, we're always surprised. Why did my car break down? You know, why did the plants die that I left outside? Why did the food burn? Why am I sick? Why did this person die? That's samsara's nature, okay? So if I acknowledge that I'm getting into a boat, it's about to sail out to sea and sink, right? Then I'm not so surprised when these things happen about my brokenness. And I'm not going to lay any additional trip on myself about my brokenness. This is the situation. I accept it. I'm in touch with the situation. So when I see a beautiful rose, I actually appreciate it more now. Because that's kind of a startling thing in samsara. You know, I understand the rose is going to die at some point, but I can stick my nose into it and breathe in the glory, and that's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing. And I know that sometimes I'm going to do some really bright things, and that's great, and sometimes I'm going to mess up. You know, and I'm just trying to have my eyes as open, as wide open as possible, because this is about waking up. So when I'm really awake, my eyes are wide open, trying to take in the messages that are coming. Okay? And then she talks about how can we wholeheartedly live in the face of impermanence, knowing one day we're going to die. So that's another context. When I wake up in bed in the morning, I start my practice there, whether I wake up with an alarm or not, and I come into consciousness, you know, those waking moments, and I realize, oh, I'm in the Amy life. Like it's, oh, I'm me again. Okay, I'm still me. Because it could be one day I wake up and I'm in a different form. But right now, great, and I have this gratitude immediately of, oh, okay, I can think, I can breathe, nothing majorly wrong with the body, fantastic life, unbelievable opportunities, and I really allow the gratitude to soak in. Like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Just for a minute, just, right? Do you appreciate it? Are you appreciating that? Because it helps me balance me. Helps me balance me. And that's a counter to low self-esteem. Appreciating your precious human rebirth. It's one of the main antidotes to low self-esteem, anxiety, and depression. It's a standard Lam-Rim meditation. Precious human rebirth is the beginning of the Lam-Rim. And we actually traditionally, there's 18 situations that make up a precious human rebirth. Things you're free from. You're free, for instance, from being an animal. So people say, why? My cat gets to sleep all day. I go to work. What's the problem? Check your animal's life. You have to, again, through analytical meditation, you be the animal. Take 10 or 20 minutes. Look out through your dog's eyes. They're low to the ground. They only get to go out when you say they go out. Look at what they eat. Look at what they lick. Look at how they go to the bathroom. Look at their level of understanding. I don't see cats and dogs in here right now because they don't understand, right? Because they're dirty, because they don't, you know. So you have to be the animal in the meditation. That's an analytical meditation. You concentrate on being the animal. Look out through their eyes. Eat, pretend you're eating in their bowl. Just imagine, right? Then you come back to your life. See if you feel relief. If you feel like, wow, I really have it good here. Really, you know, I have everything wonderful right now. What's the problem? So you need to do the meditations again and again to soak your mind in it. Again and again, you know. Imagine you are free, you're endowed with a relatively healthy body and mind. What's it like to be a person in a wheelchair? Imagine what would that be like in your life to be in a wheelchair? Can you get into your home? How do you go to the bathroom in your house? How do you go to the market? Like this. What if you're somebody that has trouble hearing or has some mental problems, mental disability? You see people like this. So some amazing gratitude. As soon as I have the gratitude, the next moment is this is passing away quickly. Death and impermanence. Could very quickly die. It's coming soon, basically. Right? Sometimes I think there should be a marquee. Coming soon to a body near you. Death. You know, the way they used to advertise our films in the old days, right? So I like to think about it, not morbidly. It motivates my practice. I better have a really great attitude. I really want to make the most of today. Could be my last day. So it's not about not going to work. It's not about what you're doing. How do I want to be today if it's my last day? How do I want to be? What's my attitude? Okay? From there, I set a motivation. Can I possibly through the day, as much as possible, direct all the activities of my body, speech, and mind towards something positive that will get me enlightened so I can benefit all living beings? Can I direct the activities of my body, speech, and mind as much as I can throughout the day? I know I'm going to forget sometimes, but I'm going to try. Direct those activities towards something positive that will get me enlightened quickly so I can benefit all living beings. For the purpose of all living beings, I'm going to get up now. So then I brush my teeth. Then I have the coffee. Then I go for a walk. Then I go to work. Then I get dressed. Then I have all with that motivation. And then if you can you every couple hours reestablish your motivation? Remind yourself. Leave reminders. Leave Post-its. Leave notes. Put something on the refrigerator. Something on your bag you take to work. So in the kitchen, next to the bed, like some reminder in your workplace so that so I get tweaked by the person at work, pissed off at this, you know. Oh, my motivation was for all living beings. All living beings. Okay, this person is irritating me, I acknowledge that, but I'm going to remember our interconnectedness. That I really need to try to figure out a way to create a healthy relationship with this person, because that's how the world will go around more harmoniously. Can I try to do that? I know it's not easy sometimes. They're in your face. They're in my face. They're really bothering me right now. I can't deal with it right now. So what I do, just try to get out of there with the least harm, right? And I go home and back to my cushion, internal. What happened today? God, I was furious with that person. Or I was so attached. So what happened? I see how the delusion is so negative in my mind, so problematic in my mind. And then you apply different antidotes, work on different antidotes for that. And maybe right when it's in your face and the person's there at work, and then I go back to my desk space or wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, right? Just give yourself the 90 seconds. I'm furious, right? 90 seconds, so attached, so confused, so prideful, so jealous, so anxious. 90 seconds, and then stop, done. Okay, I had my 90 seconds. I don't need to ruminate. No point in ruminating. Doesn't benefit anyone. Doesn't go anywhere. Guilt doesn't go anywhere. Rinpoche said once, if people die when you're guilty, very bad. It's just a negative cycling of the mind. Regret is very powerful. You know, I did this thing, I really am so sorry I did that. And I've got a purification practice I'm going to do to counteract, to purify. It's active. Guilt, not active. Nothing. Any questions? Comments? Is this helpful? Or is it okay? Because I know it's not, it might be different. I just, commercial advertisement. This is Laudo. This is the view from Laudo. Laudo is in the Solukhumbu, which is the Mount Everest region of Nepal. I'm leading a pilgrimage there in 2018, October, this is my website, amymiller.com, or I can give you a card if you're interested. I'm leading a pilgrimage in 2018, I hope. And we've got a number of people signed up. And if you're interested, there's information. The itinerary is on the website. You can click. And there's a little slideshow of the walk, what it's like for you to walk. It's trekking in Nepal. We're going to do a few days retreat. It's a very, very holy retreat center where Rinpoche has a cave. And his sister is a nun that lives there. It's a small farm. And we can walk to where he was born. And it's a fascinating, amazing region. I've done a lot of retreats there. So if you're interested in something like that, there's information. And then my website is connected to a lot of teachings I've given on a YouTube page categorized by topic. And there's also audio and video on the website itself if it's helpful for people like that. There's also a book I co-authored. I think it's available in England, cheaper, called Buddhism in a Nutshell, that is an overview of the path that a lot of people like. The back has an audio CD that's the 11-hour course. The book is just excerpts with Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. But if you're interested in like a stocking stuffer for Christmas, some people have enjoyed the course because it takes you through the whole path like that in accessible way. So I just wanted to mention, I kept forgetting to tell the centers to get some of the books or something to sell. I think there's a version that's cheaper in England than ordering it from the States, but it's also available as ebooks now. And so any questions or comments about this morning or any?
Briefly, how long is the pilgrimage?
The pilgrimage is going to be, roughly you need about 3 weeks. So it'll be from, I didn't set the exact dates, but it'll be from like October 1st or 2nd to probably like the 19th. It'll probably be an actual 2.5 weeks, but you need like another part in Kathmandu so we're going to slowly, you fly up and then we'll walk to try to acclimatize people. Because it's very high. How high is it?
How difficult?
It's challenging. I'll say it's challenging. There's 2 very, very bad hills, and you're going to be at an elevation of, it's close to 4,000 meters, 14,000 feet, Laudo. It's very, very high. But we're going to slowly go. You fly to 9,000 feet. We walk from there. So there'll be days you're walking like 2 to 3 hours, gorgeous terrain, but some of it is up and down a little bit. The problem is there's 2 very, very bad hills, but we go very slowly up, and we'll be taking our time. The issue is actually coming down on the knees can be harder. And so so I will tell people a month before that you've got to start walking and getting yourself into shape so that you don't keep, lag behind. But we'll have people, there's going to be a crew of people, and there's a ground operator from Nepal who's a wonderful guy I've been on many pilgrimages with, so something to think about. So there is information you can see on the website of like that. So let's take a break for lunch. And I would like to offer the lunch. Is there an offering book in this? Is there a food offering in here? But if not, I can just lead one. What I like to do is wherever you're going to eat is to offer first. We tend to just jump in. So, and Rinpoche taught us a big lesson. I wasn't at the retreat many years ago in Italy. They were all eating in the Gompa, the whole place, because that was the biggest place they had. And the food was given. And then Rinpoche usually is known to have very long food offerings, because that's really the point, is to offer, right? And then what was it going to say? So then Rinpoche, there was a translator, and Rinpoche said, visualize yourself as big as a house. Okay, visualize yourself as big as a house, and everyone's ready for like a 20-minute food offering while the food gets cold. They're prepared, and then Rinpoche said, and now eat. So the interpreter looked at Rinpoche kind of uncomfortable, like everybody was snickering, because that's not like Rinpoche. And then Rinpoche said it again, visualize yourself as big as a house, and now eat. So then he said it a third time. And then everybody looked uncomfortable at each other. And then Rinpoche said, well, what's the problem? Isn't that what you usually do? That's what we do, right? So with Rinpoche, it's more about the offering. So let's just take a moment to think about all the beings on the planet right now who are starving and hungry. never have access to the food we have. And can we just imagine that we're offering the food to them, and the food turns into whatever they need to immediately alleviate their suffering, bringing them to ultimate happiness. We could offer food that is completely empty, so it lacks any inherent concrete nature of independent food, to all the images we imagine in this room, to all the holy beings. And it brings great bliss to their holy minds. May the food nourish us so we may also nourish all others and continue our afternoon in good health and energy, getting as much support and information as we would like that will move us along a path to full awakening so we can benefit all living beings. So really, for the purpose of benefiting all living beings, we will practice the yoga of eating lunch. We bless the food with 3 syllables, Om, Ah, Hung, which is the body speech, it represents the body, speech, and mind of the holy beings. You can imagine a white Om, the letters O-M, at the forehead of all the images in this room. A red Ah, A-H, if you don't know the Tibetan syllables, at their throat. A blue H-U-M at their heart. Body, speech, mind. And white, red, and blue nectar rays come from those forehead, throat, and heart of the holy beings into our food, completely blessing it as we recite these 3 syllables. Om Ahung, Om Ahung, Om Ahung. Lama Sangye Lama Ju Dejin Lama Gedunte Kuni Jepo Lama Te Lama Nam La Ju Barbu. Thank you so much. Enjoy your lunch. And apparently today's a Tibetan 10th on the Tibetan calendar. It's a day we do this tantric ritual, and we're going to do it for about an hour following the last session. So maybe like 5:30 to 6:30. Anyone's welcome to join if you'd like, if you have the time. I just wanted to mention. Thank you so much.